Breaking news today. The FBI director has just discovered hidden burn bags filled with confidential documents related to Russiagate. This revelation raises significant concerns about government transparency and the potential for partisan abuse. Could this be evidence of a deep state acting in its own interest?
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
Fox News reports that the FBI director was stunned upon discovering Russiagate-related documents in burn bags. This begs the question, how does a country founded on transparency and the rule of law end up hiding thousands of secret documents from one of the most divisive investigations in recent history? These were not just tucked away, they were sealed in burn bags and locked deep within the FBI. Is this an agency serving the public or protecting itself and its political allies? For years, we've been urged to trust the process, the experts, and the guardians of democracy. Tonight, the facade crumbles. This isn't merely a bureaucratic error. It's evidence of a deliberate attempt by the previous Democratic administration to obscure the truth and wield power. The true scandal here isn't Russian interference, but rather the manipulation by our own institutions, which were weaponized against a sitting president. Meanwhile, the media applauded and the global elite turned a blind eye. If you've ever questioned the existence of a deep state or wondered if the system is biased against outsiders, these burn bags provide interesting evidence. They don't just tell a story, they expose a troubling reality. You're in for a treat.
The director also discovered official allegations from a Democratic staffer who accused Adam Schiff of orchestrating leaks of classified intelligence in order to hurt President Trump. Those allegations had been swept under the rug at the FBI until now, and that's not all. According to a bombshell report from JustTheNews.com founder, editor-in-chief John Solomon, James Comey also accused of routinely leaking classified information to the New York Times through a friend, a professor at Columbia University. Just the tip of the iceberg.
The recent whistleblower allegations highlight a troubling pattern of leaks and cover-ups that critics of the intelligence establishment have long warned about. When a Democratic staffer accused Adam Schiff of releasing classified intelligence to undermine President Trump, and the FBI seemingly ignored these claims, it confirmed fears of partisan abuse and the weaponization of government power. This issue extends beyond a single lawmaker. It points to an entrenched bureaucracy that appears to operate above the law, unaccountable to anyone. These revelations, emerging after years of denials and stonewalling, underscore a problematic culture within the FBI and the broader intelligence community. Time and again, these agencies have manipulated their authority for political purposes, be it through the discredited Steele dossier, the misuse of FISA warrants, or the alleged leaks of classified material to fabricate a narrative of Russian collusion. These leaks were strategic and consistently benefited one political faction. James Comey's reported use of academic contacts at Columbia University to channel sensitive information to the New York Times exemplifies how our democracy's supposed guardians have strayed from impartiality. Instead of defending Americans' rights and upholding the Constitution, these officials have seemingly prioritized their political agendas and the interests of a globalist establishment. The mainstream media has compounded the issue by uncritically amplifying every leak without questioning the motives or verifying the evidence. This lack of skepticism and critical inquiry has fueled a relentless campaign to undermine a sitting president and suppress dissent. The current push for transparency at the FBI is therefore crucial. For too long, these agencies have operated in the shadows, using national security as a shield against accountability. The discovery of hidden documents is now revealing the extent of this cover-up. The American people deserve transparency about how their government operates and assurance that their federal law enforcement serves the public interest, not partisan agendas. What we are witnessing is a vindication for those who have cautioned against the deep state and the perils of unchecked government power. This is not merely about holding a few individuals accountable. It's about restoring trust in our institutions and ensuring that no party, official, or agency can undermine the democratic process for personal gain. To preserve the integrity of our republic, the era of secret dealings, hidden documents, and politically motivated leaks must end.
Not only did we expose the Russiagate hoax with the greats like Devin and Trey and Johnny Ratcliffe when we were back there in the House Intel Committee excavating and exposing the FISA abuses, the corruption of political parties, and the lies to a federal court just to illegally surveil a presidential candidate. I come in then years later, nearly a decade as a director of the FBI, thinking we uncovered most of it.
The discovery of hidden burn bags filled with Russiagate documents at FBI headquarters is more than a bureaucratic error. It's a wake-up call for every American who values the rule of law and the integrity of our democratic institutions. It's clear that a culture of unaccountable power has taken root, particularly after years of obstruction and partisan gamesmanship by the previous Democratic administration. The concealment of these documents from legitimate oversight suggests a deliberate attempt to protect political operatives and safeguard the interests of an entrenched establishment rather than serving the public. For years, the investigation into Russian collusion was sustained by a media echo chamber and driven by unverified opposition research. Meanwhile, the FBI and intelligence community overlooked credible indications that the Clinton campaign was crafting a narrative against the Trump campaign. The release of the Durham Annex and the declassification of intelligence assessments have exposed that senior officials in the Obama-Biden administration were aware of these actions and yet chose to exploit surveillance powers against political adversaries while excusing their own affiliates. This systemic abuse of power goes beyond poor judgment and has severely damaged trust in the institutions involved. The implications for policy are significant. The current leadership's push for transparency, led by Director Patel and supported by new teams of the CIA and DNI, represents a decisive break from past practices of secrecy and self-preservation. These reforms aim not only to correct the record, but also to ensure that no unelected officials can again manipulate classified processes for partisan advantage. Strengthening congressional oversight and imposing real penalties for those who conceal evidence or mislead the courts is crucial, as is ending the practice of rubber-stamping FISA warrants based on political hearsay. The partisan response to these issues is stark. Republicans are at the forefront of demanding accountability and transparency, insisting on the release of documents that the public deserves to see. In contrast, Democratic leaders have largely dismissed these findings as partisan attacks, unwilling to address the misconduct that occurred on their watch. This situation isn't about settling scores. It's about restoring public trust in government and ensuring that no political party can misuse intelligence and law enforcement for personal vendettas. These revelations also underscore the dangers of global entanglements and endless foreign interventions. When our intelligence agencies can be so easily swayed by domestic politics, it's imprudent to believe they can act with integrity internationally without stringent oversight and a firm commitment to prioritize American interests. The lesson is clear. Transparency, accountability, and a steadfast adherence to constitutional principles are essential to prevent future abuses and safeguard the freedoms that define our nation.
Here I am in Alaska. They will have a summit tomorrow. And in fact, the conclusion of senior career intelligence officials was it did not happen. There's no evidence at all that it happened. Then the report suggests that Barack Obama himself, along with his top intel officials, that would probably be people like Brennan and Clapper and maybe some others, decided to do a new intelligence assessment because they didn't like the old one. And they got a narrative that moved forward. But yet also they added something, and I believe it was John Brennan that said they did not do this.
The pattern is clear. Senior intelligence officials, when faced with findings that contradicted their preferred narrative, chose to manipulate the evaluation process. Rather than accepting the clear results, no evidence, no collusion, they established a select group to create a new intelligence evaluation, deliberately sidelining any dissent and shortening the timeline to align the outcome with their objectives. This approach falls short of the careful, thoughtful process that Americans expect from their national security agencies. It was a hurried effort, led by figures like Brennan and Clapper, who prioritized presenting a united front over truthful inquiry, as evidenced by communications where one official conceded that they would have to compromise on our normal modalities. Fox News has played a crucial role in shedding light on these internal maneuvers, showcasing emails and memos that expose the crafting of the so-called intelligence community evaluation. Their coverage, enriched with direct quotes from senior officials and essential context, has been instrumental in illustrating the behind-the-scenes activities and the motivations involved. The use of actual documents, timelines, and profiles of key players enhances the clarity of the narrative. Fox News could push harder for deeper accountability. While their reports thoroughly present the facts, there is a need for more incisive questioning of the officials involved and a stronger focus on the implications for civil liberties and government oversight. The network could better amplify the perspectives of independent experts who have long cautioned against the dangers of politicized intelligence and the erosion of public trust. The core issue extends beyond secretive meetings to a broader culture of unaccountable power within the intelligence community. When officials can dismiss inconvenient truths and fabricate consensus, it creates a system that caters to entrenched interests rather than serving the American public. This manipulation of intelligence for political ends is a serious concern for anyone who values transparency and constitutional governance. This is precisely why the FBI's ongoing transparency initiatives are crucial. The uncovering of hidden burn bags and suppressed documents highlights a deliberate attempt to evade oversight and protect senior officials from accountability. The fact that these revelations are emerging only years later underscores the resistance to meaningful reform within these agencies. Fox News' dedication to uncovering this story and demanding answers serves the public interest. Both Fox and the broader media must continue to apply pressure for reform. The American public deserves full transparency about how intelligence assessments are conducted, who is accountable when these processes are compromised, and what measures are being implemented to prevent future occurrences. The lesson is unmistakable. Unchecked intelligence power threatens liberty, and only persistent transparency and accountability can restore trust in these institutions.
So the question is a timeline. When you add that to the 2020 election and the fact that by March of 2020, they knew Hunter's laptop, they had verified its authenticity and that it was real, and then they're pre-bunking it by meeting weekly with big tech companies, and then when it gets dropped, which they knew would happen because of Rudy Giuliani's attorney, they knew Bob Costello had a copy. Are they putting cinder blocks on the scales of elections? Was weaponization from 2020 to 2024 designed to bloody up Trump? In other words, do we have 3 presidential elections, potentially, that cinder blocks were put on the scales of the election so the results would come out the way one team wanted it to come out? The team in power.
When examining the timeline, the facts are undeniable. By March 2020, federal investigators had confirmed the authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop, ruling out Russian disinformation. Despite this, a pattern of weekly meetings between federal agencies and major tech companies emerged, all aware that the laptop's contents would soon be public, particularly with Rudy Giuliani's attorney, Bob Costello, in possession of a verified copy. This raises a critical question. Did these actions unfairly influence our elections? The economic impact of such government intervention and information control is significant. Eroding trust in institutions leads to market volatility, investor caution, and reduced household confidence. Consider families budgeting for college, retirement, or a first home. Uncertainty about election fairness may cause them to postpone significant financial decisions, affecting investments and career plans. Small businesses, highly sensitive to regulatory and political shifts, might delay expansion or hiring due to fears of abrupt policy changes. This uncertainty permeates every sector, from manufacturing to tech to agriculture. A Magenta family saving for the future, only to discover that the rules change unpredictably. This is the reality when federal agencies expected to provide impartial oversight instead manipulate narratives and suppress information, potentially swaying electoral outcomes. The repercussions extend beyond politics to financial stability. Public distrust in fair elections leads to decreased consumer spending and slower economic growth, evidenced by falling consumer sentiment indices, increased market uncertainty, and tighter credit conditions. From Wall Street to Main Street, the fallout of misused federal power is evident. Industries dependent on regulatory consistency, such as banking, energy, and healthcare, face escalating costs and compliance challenges amid growing political uncertainty. Tech companies, caught in regular meetings with government officials, struggle to maintain user trust while under governmental pressure, often sacrificing innovation and free expression. These ongoing issues with concealed documents and orchestrated leaks prompt serious concerns about the integrity of 3 consecutive presidential elections. If the same tactics were employed in 2016, 2020, and now 2024, the foundation of our democratic process is under threat. Evidence of systematic bias and information suppression indicates a bureaucracy resistant to accountability, prioritizing its interests and those of globalist elites over the American public. This is more than a partisan issue. It's about national sovereignty and economic security. When unelected officials control information flow and compromise transparency, they endanger both our constitutional order and the prosperity of American families. The financial sector, already reeling from regulatory inconsistencies, faces heightened uncertainty, leading to higher prices, fewer jobs, and reduced opportunities for working Americans. Urgent reform is necessary. Current transparency initiatives are uncovering the extent of these abuses, but restoring trust demands genuine accountability and adherence to constitutional principles. Only through such measures can we ensure fair elections and maintain a strong American economy in the face of bureaucratic overreach. That's another interesting spin by the news media. Tonight's revelation goes beyond mere bureaucratic maneuvers. It demonstrates how the supposed defenders of democracy concealed the truth to maintain their power. During the previous Democratic administration, federal agencies actively undermined President Trump with widespread media support, framing it as journalism. As the current administration works to restore accountability, we must remember that the greatest threat to our republic comes from those who undermine it under the guise of protection. If we fail to demand honesty from our institutions, we become complicit in the deception they perpetrate. Be sure to leave your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.